Mock.
Yeah.
Ing.
Yeah.
Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Amazon exclusive West Coast Avengers 5-pack. I had to get this, even though I was X-Men all the way as a kid, as a teenager. All the X titles, all the mutants. And then my brother bought Spider-Man, Avengers, Fantastic Four, maybe, and Thor. Those were the biggies. Yes, we read each other's comics. The only big difference was those comics went in his room, and my comics went in my room. But for some reason, I was all over West Coast Avengers. I don't know if it was because they were an offshoot group, or they were like the rebels, the rogues. They were kind of always infighting and arguing and stuff, but they still came together and fought as a team. You know, don't get me wrong, I love classic Avengers comics, but they always seemed high and mighty in a good way. These were the bad boys and girls. Like, didn't play well with others, so send them out to the West Coast. Also, before we get into this, I do not have the first version of Tigra or the first version of the Silver Centurion Iron Man, so those comparisons won't be in this. I know, I suck. Why do I even do this? Terrible reviewer. I just like looking at new toys. Woo. Looking at the package, somewhat. Very nice graphic on the front with West Coast Avengers. I like that right there. Have they been doing that on all of them? They probably have been, huh? And I just forgot about it because I've slept since then. Warning, choking hazard, small parts, don't put them in your mouth. On the side, those same headshots just lined up. Ooh, I also like that too, with the eyes peering out. But my favorite promo pics are the vanilla yearbook ones. It just gives you a good idea of what you're getting in action figure form. Also lists the accessories, so I won't forget anything. Won't forget anything. Sure. On the other side, headshots, but in comic book form. On top, Avengers 60 Years of Earth's Mightiest. On the bottom, legalese barcode. Let's get this open. It's much more dramatic when the package is smaller. Ooh, exciting. Gotta make sure you get all the flavor packets out. And I don't know who to start with because I know there's reuse here, but like I said, I don't have the first version of this. I do have the version, but it's completely different. This is an upgrade. This is half new, half old. Let's start with Spider-Woman. Because just looking at it like this, you can already tell it is a massive upgrade over the first Spider-Woman. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's the same torso with new limbs put on, but no. I think this is a completely upgraded body. The biggest tell is right here. It almost looks like it goes flat, and here it kind of forms into the chest. And then of course there's pinless double elbows and knees. Even the body shape, the thickness, the proportions look so much better. When I got this I thought, woo, Julia Carpenter. I love a good black and white spider type costume. And now I'm even happier because look at it. It's better. The spider logos are very similar. The new one's just slightly larger and not as angular. And I've been putting it off, but the biggie is the head. Now, when I got this, I thought it is cool, but now that it goes back to its roots, to what it looked like in a lot of the comics, this almost seems like it's trying too hard. It's extra whippy, extra dynamic. I do like the paint wash, though. But then you get around to the front, and it's very flat right here. All the life is in the back. The new one is much more full, and what I remember from the comics. I'll admit, it's been a while since I've read West Coast Avengers, but this is much more Julia Carpenter, I feel like. And there is a wash here to bring out the detail. It's just not as crazy twirly. And the skin tone's nicer, a bit more pale than this, but this looks, I hate to use this term, action figure-y. Hey, this is an action figure too, but I don't know, a bit more lifelike. This is definitely my new display one already, and I haven't even messed with it yet. Just looking at them side by side, it's like, okay, you're gonna go to the fodder box, you're gonna go to the shelf. Oh, and before I forget, if you wanna use this, I don't even know what that sport's called, where you, and then whip the ball back. But if you wanna use this on the new figure, plug this in and it's not a problem. The whites of the sleeve and the glove don't quite match, but at normal distance, you'll never know the difference. One thing I do notice, because it's been a trend lately, the difference in sheens from part to part. I think it's because here is cast in black, same thing here, but then this is painted on top of white. So it's not really harsh, but You can tell. You can see it. Look at it. Look at it. Going over articulation, the one bad thing about long hair like this is it's going to get in the way of the neck. And up there is a ball joint with a hinge going forward and back. You can force it up and then arc her back, but most of the movement's going to be this way. So much tilt. Side to side, and yes, it does dip down because the hair hits the shoulders, but what can you do? Pin coming out to the arm rotates all the way around with a hinge that goes up to there. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow goes, oh man, all the way up. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Dumbbell joint mid-torso for some very nice hula hoop action. Ball coming out to the hip allows for this, and oh, not bad at all. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee, what do we got going on here? Oh, you can force it. It's gonna stop right there, but hinge at the ankle goes back and forward, and front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, she comes with these so standard at this point female hands. There's a lot of figures that come with these. You can pop those out, and she comes with a pair of fists. Slightly small, but like I said, so many Marvel Legends females have these hands that the fist changes things up, and makes her look kind of tough. I think she's going on the shelf like this. Then there's Hank Pym, and I always had a soft spot for him in this costume, but in action figure form, I think more than anything, it's the color of the jumpsuit. It is just very pale, very dull. I guess I expected something a little closer to comic book red, you know? And yeah, I use this as Pym, even though I think it's Lang, but whatever. Quite the size difference though. I mean, yeah, he's wearing baggy clothes here, but even the height and the bulkiness is different. Again, if you use this as Pym, is Scott supposed to be shorter than Pym? I don't know. But a lot of this body reuses, well, I had Wonder Man in the review space, but these limbs first came with Red Skull and Dormammu, I think. Same sleeves, same pants, same boots. Can't remember if the belt is the same, but I think this is a new torso, and then this is a new head. Going there, the head also seems a little large. I don't know if they did that on purpose to try to make the body seem smaller because it's Hank Pym. It does kind of have normal human proportions, but then it also looks slightly gappy, like right here. And I didn't notice that on previous versions of this. It seemed like a tighter fit. Here, you can see down in there. I do remember this problem though, the peg kind of flexing at the boot whenever you use the ankle. It's not trying to come off, it's just flexing a little. And if you push it back into position, it's like it was never there, so it's not that big a deal. And while I'm gropping, the right hand doesn't want to plug all the way into the sleeve. There's always a little peg sticking out, whereas the left is fairly flush. In fact, it goes up into the sleeve. Is that nitpicky enough? Because despite all that, it does represent Pym from the comics. It's dude in jumpsuit. You know what would have spruced this up? Little miniature things. I know they wouldn't have been able to stuff them into the pockets, but that was his thing, remember? Well, there's no pockets here. He just has them here. But even then, he would pull miniature things out and then make them grow. You needed something, out of the pocket. Poof, like a little car or something. I don't know. Face printing looks good. The eyes are nice. Eyebrows, the lips. I like this curl right here in the hair. Slight wash to the blondness. Kind of an angry Pym though, now that I'm looking close. Articulation, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck with a, ball down at the bottom. So can look up and down. Tilt to his left, to his right. Pin in the shoulder, rotates all the way around, and oh, what do we got going on here? That is tough to get up. Hinges up to there. And again, doesn't help that the arm peg is flexy. But that does give you a bicep swivel. Double elbow. Because of the bagginess, it does break up like an old Star Wars Black Series leg, but comes most of the way up. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Hinge in the torso. Oh, not a lot of range there. And about the same back. Swivel at the waist. Ball coming out to the hip. Kicks up, kicks back, kicks out. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee. Again, small kneecap, so there's a lot of flatness to it, but can kick his shrinking ass. Oh, he wasn't shrinking at this time, was he? Swivel at the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back and forward, and front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there is a right gripping hand and a left fist. Those pull out easy enough, especially the right. Again, I don't know, I think it's the hole, because there's also a trigger finger hand that plugs in, and it doesn't seat completely either. On top of that, what's he doing with the trigger finger hand? Oh, is that Red Skull's hand? And then a left clenched Why are you so angry, Pim? Then there's Tigra, who I am very happy to have after passing on the first one. And to say it one more time, because I passed, I don't have her to compare to the new one. So we're gonna have to go the picture route, which isn't as accurate. But even there, you can tell that the first one was more flamin' hot. This one's more traditional Cheeto, and that's what I wanted. And I think the calm head on the new one is that same face sculpt, but they improve the hair, or at least I think they improve the hair. It's so much more full, and it has life to it, and it's coming back and around. And yeah, it's still blowing in the breeze a little bit. And I know Greer is usually pretty aggressive, but standing on the shelf, getting ready, that battle pose, that comic book cover look, yeah, I like this. And then the body is also reused, but it is very Tigra. All this bikini and these skulls and these claws and the little tufts of hair are all sculpted in. I know that's hard to see, but that roughness, that's like fur. Same thing above the knees a little bit, and then she has clawed toes. There's a better look at those teeth or claws or whatever they are on the bikini bottom. Then there's a close-up of that clasp. The tail is just a straight peg. At first I thought it was a ball, and maybe you could angle it out, but all you can do is go side to side, rotate around, which does give you a few options. You can have it off to the side, or off to the other side, or down, or up. Okay. Rotating it is your only option, but you know what I mean. And then the tiger stripes are very nice and crisp, very clean, going all the way down to the ankle. I like how some of them open up in the middle, and it's not the same on both sides. Like this one's way up here, this one's further down. And on the bicep, there's one in the middle, and this one's on top. So yeah, it lends a little asymmetry to the overall design, breaks things up, changes things around a bit. Oh, I didn't get a close-up of the face. Again, with the printing, the eyes, the lips, the eyebrows, just very well done. Going over articulation, dumbbell joint at the top of the neck, but again, sculpted hair is going to get in the way of looking up. It does flex enough to get out of the way of down, though. That gets in the way of tilt slightly, but it goes the other way. Ooh, left and right. Pin at the shoulder, rotates around, hinge comes up to about right there. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, goes all the way up, swivel wrist, hinge, dumbbell joint mid-torso, good grief. Hip ball kicks forward and back and out. Oh, that's not winning the wave. Don't forget the swivel at the tail. Cut at the thigh, double knee. Hinge at the ankle goes, whoa, way back and way forward. And then a forward-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, out of the package, she has 2 fists. And then she comes with much more appropriate clawed hands, which I guess doesn't really fit with the calm face. And while I am definitely displaying it like that, she does come with this alternate head that is more fitting of the claws. Get on there. She's angry. She's lashing out. But at this point, this style of hair is outdated. I mean, I know it's action figure-y. I hate to say that again, but it's there to pose. It gives you movement, but it's just always in action. This just seems way more display worthy. In fact, it may be a little scarier to be calm and battle ready at the same time, because that works for me. Next up, let's look at Silver Centurion Iron Man, or not so Silver Centurion Iron Man. Again, I do not have the first version of this to compare. Looking at pictures, you can see that the silver has been changed to white. There, looking through West Coast Avengers covers, the white is appropriate. The white is accurate. But seeing other people's reviews, I also think they've modified the shoulders to come out more, which is more Silver Centurion-ish. Again, I can't prove that in hand in front of the camera right here for you, but it does look like they stick out more. And I've heard people talk about the backpack not being accurate and everything too, but me, it's there. And it's close enough, I think. I am super happy having this in hand at this moment. Although I do now see what people are talking about when it comes to the neck, because that kind of sucks. That is a terrible design. Can't look down. You look up and it just breaks in half. I guess it does do some tilt. But hell, even looking to the side, why does it do that? It spreads apart and angles up. Well, okay, I am hitting on the collar a little bit, but even if you shift back, you still can't look down. Why not separate that from the head so you can get a little bit more movement on top? I know that's extra pieces, extra cost, but yeah, that's terrible. But then going back to the shoulder pads, you would think they get in the way, but You can angle, well, okay, it gets in the way a little bit, but then they rotate around with the arm, so that's cool. And the more I look, the more bright white those parts get. They really stand out in a good way, at least for me, because I'm also a fan of the swirly twirly plastic when it comes to comic book metal. I know some people hate it, and I get that, but for me, it's kind of ethereal. It's kind of just comic booky. The marbleizing just adds a little something to it. It could just be shiny red, and I guess that would be comic accurate too, but I don't know. It spices things up. He does cut a good silhouette, though, with those shoulder pads. Oh, and looking at pictures, too. I guess the arc reactor, or the unibeam, damn movies. There is a little extra detail there with the blue base with some shininess, like some glare here and here. The more I hold this, the more secure I am in my decision to skip the Walgreens one, as long as I'm not messing with the neck. But while we're there, and speaking of it, for articulation, that is a dumbbell joint at the neck, at the base of the neck, because for some reason they attach the neck to the head. Do I need to keep pointing that out? So there is no down, there is some up, some tilt, and then left and right does some wonky thing. And that will be the last I speak on that, maybe. Pin at the arm comes out, and the shoulder pad rotates around with that, with a hinge comes out to there. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow comes up to there. He's just too muscular. Swivel wrist, hinge in and out. Hinge in the torso does give some crunch, and then arc back. Swivel at the waist. Ball at the hip comes up and back and out. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee comes up. Oh, and that is stiff. He's not going to be able to touch. Not bad for a suit of armor. Hinge at the ankle goes back and forward, and front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, you may have noticed that I swapped out the hands for this part because the fists look so good. But there's also some repulsor blasting hands that are the old type that don't have hinges to them. They're stuck in that position. But that's okay if you're using the blue repulsor blasts. We've seen these many times before too on many an Iron Man, and they work just as well here. Oh, it's even more badass by the minute. I love it. Except for this. Have I mentioned the neck? Finally, there is Mockingbird, who I wanted the most. Just a not so classic rendition of Mockingbird, kind of a modern take on that costume. I don't have any specifics on that, but that's what I'm going with. Not near as modern as this costume, though. Again, I'm assuming maybe she went to this one and then went back to this one, but again, tone some things down. And yeah, I'm talking about these sleeves, because back in the day, ooh, those hung down really far. And when it comes to an action figure, I can see wanting to do that, because if it was sculpted to hang down really far, you get into action poses and it would stick out. Saying that, I sure would like to see more puffiness here. That and skin tone. It always seemed like her sleeves came down, hung way down, and then had bare arm from there. This makes it seem like she's wearing another sleeve under that sleeve. I'm guessing that was done to hide that transition, maybe? It would have been way more noticeable if that was skin tone. The silver bracers are cool, though. And so are the boots. She always had that pirate cuff, but I like how it's hanging to the inside here. It has angles to it. Then there's the heels on the feet, and when they're like this, it makes these a pain in the ass to stand up. It's just of course. Costume lines are not sculpted in, they're just painted on, so that may be reuse. But the head is unmistakably Bobby. That bright blonde hair again whipping to the side. It seems like this whole box set is in a storm of some kind. But then it has like a white dry brush on top to bring out the detail. Or it's a very light yellow with a darker yellow wash. One or the other. It's the mask that seals the deal. Yeah, it's a little different than old school West Coast Avengers, but it's also very Mockingbird. And the way the eyes are peering out from behind it, this works. Well, I say that, I always kind of gravitated towards the long pants costume with the blacks and the whites. This blue is cool, and it works for me, but I wouldn't mind another Mockingbird, Hasbro. Another thing is she looks fantastic next to the new Hawkeye that came with the Sky Cycle. The colors and the designs just work so well together. Even if it hung down further right here, you'd come up. That seems like a compromise. It doesn't go Mockingbirdish. It's not pow, but it also doesn't stick out that much in action position. I keep coming back to that. Going over articulation, there is a ball and a hinge at the neck. Again, the hair is going to get in the way of looking up, but there's down, way down. Not a lot of tilt though. And that's not the hair, that's the actual sculpt of the head. Right and left. Shoulder swings all the way around, then hinges up. Hinge and swivel at the elbow, comes up to slightly past 90, then swings in and out. Rotation, hinginess. Dumbbell mid-torso, but not a lot of crunch. Quite a bit arc back though. Also some tilt and rotation. Ball at the hip, forward kick, back kick, side kick, swivel at the thigh. Double knee, oh, bong. Hinge at the ankle goes back and forward, but because it is a high heel, that forward-facing pin is angled down into the boot, so it's more of a twist than a rocker. For accessories, she comes with a flat right hand and a fist left, but in this house she gets grippy hands because I love that Mockingbird just beat people up with lead pipes. I think this is a Daredevil accessory or something because it does stick together like that for a longer lead pipe, but then she also has a staff, which is just as cool. And wow, yeah, now that I have them all side by side, Hank is slightly large, huh? Tigra stands slightly over 6 inches. Hank is about 6 3/8. Mockingbird is 6 1/8. Iron Man is right at 6 1/2. And then Spider-Woman is 6 1/16. Then here they are with a few others that I think are essential for West Coast Avengers, like US Agent, Power Man, Hawkeye, and Vision. But of course there's others like Scarlet Witch and Moon Knight. But when I think of Moon Knight in West Coast Avengers, I think he needs some gold, which would not be a bad repaint for this figure. Also, I think of White Vision in West Coast Avengers, but I didn't like that White Vision figure. Plus, there's already a lot of white in there, so I need to add some green and red. So at the end of the day, the set has its problems, but I still think it's the best versions of each of these characters. Well, okay, except for Hank Pym. I'll always be an Ant-Man type of guy, but he was quirky in West Coast Avengers. The jumpsuit works. And hey, if it doesn't make it into the display, then I'll make it into something else. I've always wanted a fixer. You remember the green and blue costume for Techno before he was Techno? That's a character I've been trying to customize for 25 years. And now looking at this, that may just work. And yes, I did a little griping, I did a little complaining, I picked some nits, especially over Iron Man's neck and Mockingbird's sleeves. But when it comes down to it, I love the look of it. I mean, just standing here, they look badass. And then I feel like Tigra and Spider-Woman are complete upgrades over previous versions. Oh, and I did get Iron Man to look down. If you push, the chin pops down to the collar and he looks down. But what I think it is essentially popping the head off the ball. I mean, it's still solid. It doesn't just fall off, but it's also not mounted all the way. That also helps with the head turning. You gotta be careful and bring it down, but yeah, that's much more pose-worthy. It also helps that West Coast Avengers is near and dear, and thinking about it like that, I've got to have that Hank Pym. He was part of that team. So I guess Fixer's out. Well, he had that chest cover. I guess I could use any figure. In fact, Red Skull would work better, right? With the green jumpsuit. Just need the blue helmet and a face and a blue chest gear thing. Then paint the hands and boots. Anyway, West Coast Avengers.